This morning we got here and Gloria asked me a question. She says, "Is it really 9 o'clock?" She was looking at the clock up here and I said, "Yes, it's 9 o'clock." She says, "Well, we have gone through a whole season of the time being moved back and that not even changed to now where it's the right time." So as I look, I don't have to figure out, oh, it's only, it says what it should say, so we're good. This morning as we continue our March Madness, we're looking at the events that are leading up to Christ's crucifixion. Today we're going to look at the cost. The cost. Now we're not talking about the cost that Christ paid, the death, the burial, and resurrection. We'll look at that in 2 weeks. But today we are going to look at the cost. What was paid to get Christ? What was paid in able to trap Jesus and the soldiers to be able to come in and get him. Now, we need to understand that it happened in 2 different stages, 2 different parts. And as we look at these this morning, I want us to think about ourselves. What do we pay to entrap Christ in our lives? The plan. Mark 14, verses 10 to 11. Mark 14, 10 to 11. Then Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went to the chief priests in order to betray him. Then, when they heard it, they were glad and promised to give him money. He sought out the opportunity to betray Jesus Christ. The whole time that Jesus was ministering, the chief priests were always trying to catch Jesus doing something wrong, saying something wrong, allowing something wrong, even to the point of healing someone on the Sabbath. They were always looking to see Jesus make a mistake. And he never did. I'm sure as Judas came up to them and they discussed this plot to be able to foil Jesus and his plans and his goals and what he was on earth for, that the chief priests were excited that Judas, one of the 12, came to them and started the discussion of a plot, a way to destroy Jesus Christ. There's things that we do in our lives to destroy Jesus Christ. I'm glad to see you all here this morning. Even though we're very few, we're here to look and to focus on Jesus Christ and what he has to say to us. But I want to ask you, first of all, this morning, do we plan on failing Christ weekly, daily? Now, there are times when we don't plan on failing Christ. But there's other times where we do plan on doing things against what Jesus wants us to do. There's a lifestyle that's there that we would respond in a non-Christian manner to different situations in our life. And we know that people are watching us. The things we say, the things we do, that are completely opposite of what Jesus would want us to do. This woman that passed away in Ohio, Joyce was her name. She was awesome. Her and her husband did a lot for the church. But her husband was not a role model for little kids, let's just say. He would use language that was not acceptable. In fact, there was one time I remember he was driving the bus to a basketball game. He was parked here, and Dan, my now, almost said son-in-law, but he's my sister's brother-in-law, was parked right behind me. And Ron proceeded to back the bus up and didn't see Dan parked behind him and hit him. And oh, he got upset. He got mad. He flew off the handle. Why are you parked behind me? There was nowhere else to park. What kind of reaction would that have been if he acted and behaved in a Christian way, the way that God, the way that Christ would want us to react? See, Judas was chosen to fulfill a plan that God had set in motion way long before he was born. It would have probably been, are you okay? There was no concern for anyone hurt in the bus. There was no concern for anyone hurt in the car behind us. Just that he parked behind him, and Ron, of course, didn't see him. What kind of priorities is that? What do we put priority on in our life that would tell people that we're not Christians? Or that we are, but we're flexible with what we believe? Or that we can turn it on and turn it off, and that's what God wants us to do? It's not. Judas went to the chief priests and planned. Not only planned to sell Jesus, but also part of the plan was for him to identify Christ. Now, I don't know why he would have to identify Christ. Everybody knew who he was. The chief priests were always trying to get him, so they knew who he was. But part of the plot was to identify Jesus so that the soldiers would know who to go in and to grab. Now, the word betray. It means to deliver up, to hand over, to give. To give Jesus to the soldiers by identifying who he was. Betray. In fact, one of the persons I was reading made a comparison. God, in human form, was Christ. But then he also said that Judas was the human form of Satan. Because of what he did, because he surrendered Jesus to the soldiers. Satan does the work on his own. The execution. Immediately, While he was still speaking, Judas came, one of the 12, and with him in a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one that I kiss, that is the man. Seize him and lead him away under guard." And when he came, he went up to him, and at once he said, "Rabbi." And then he kissed him. And they laid hands on him, and they seized him. This was just the beginning of many things that was put into motion. The kiss. It identified who Christ was. And it sold him into what would be happening, what we're going to be looking at in the next few weeks. The Bible calls him the betrayer, the one that gave Jesus to the soldiers to be seized, to be taken out. And those of us that have been in church for a long time, we know what's coming. We know what's happening after that point. The different court dates that he's going to experience, the blood, the beatings, the carrying of the cross. But we'll discuss more about that in a couple weeks. This was part of a plan. A plan that was set into motion even before the earth was created. Last week, we looked at the prayer of Jesus in the garden. "Father, if this cup could be passed from me, let it be. But not my will, but yours." This was part of the plan. Judas was chosen to satisfy that part of the plan. Now there's huge debates. There may be differences of opinions out here. Was Judas a true follower of Christ? Was he saved? At that time, did he accept Christ when he was called and he agreed to follow? That's debate for those who are smarter than I am. I can say on some days, I could say, yes, he was saved. Jesus chose him. But then on the other hand, Jesus chose Peter. What did Peter do? He denied Christ 3 times before the cock crowed. He got angry. He got upset. Cut off an ear. In fact, right after this. He had the temperament like you and I still after he followed Christ. After the crucifixion, what did Peter do? He ran. He went back to his old job until the meeting of the disciples in that room where they prayed. All of the disciples were there. The doors were locked. Jesus appeared. Now I love Thomas, one of the other disciples that was there. He said, "I'm not going to believe it's you until you show me the scars." Jesus said, "Go ahead, touch." From that moment on, Peter got busy doing what he was supposed to be doing. He put into practice what Jesus was teaching him for those 3 years. This moment of weakness We all have. Now, what do we sell Christ for? Some of us, for money. I can get more money working on Sundays. In a lot of jobs you can. I want to become famous. Hannah may be saying that. Becoming a world-known model. We don't know what is in her future. If she's sitting back there going, what? But you never know what's going to happen. You could get spotted by a movie director here in Austin, especially with all the movies that are made here. Fame. I told Gloria, was it yesterday or Friday? I was famous. Oh, infamous. No, not infamous. Famous. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. She said, and it really helped me think about it. She said, so is everybody else. Doesn't make a difference. Okay? I'm not famous. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody cares. They shrug their shoulders. Who? You type in Michael on YouTube, the first one that pops up is Jackson. Your job. There are people that put their job above Christ in what they do. The chief priests were putting their job above Christ when they should have been under him. They felt it their duty to arrest him, to put him on trial for things that he had said or done. And we will see later on where Jesus was crucified, and yet he was innocent. Family and friends. There are people that's in the church that put their family above, or their friends above, serving the Lord within the church. They take their family and friends. Now, understand. Lisa, when were you saved? 13 years old. Okay. Did you go to church before that? Okay. And then you married Jim Bob sometime later on. Okay. Now, I'm a firm believer that family comes first. God gave me my family. Yes, I went to church before I was married. But that was an important part, an important thing that God gave me was my family. Gave me Gloria. Gave me Hannah and Jesse and Sarah and the grandkids. It's an awesome responsibility to have that God gave me. But we sell Christ for some people on a weekly basis. I've been trying to get a hold of someone, and the excuse was, oh, you didn't use Messenger on Facebook to be able to get a hold of me. I sent a text and I called and I left a message. What difference would it make if I used Messenger to be able to get a hold of you? Because this person contacted someone and said, oh, I lost my phone in my room. Yeah, huh? What? You lost your phone? Doesn't make sense. Now, I understand some of the jokes that go around when the boys take up Lisa's phone and they start typing out messages that Lisa probably would never put on Facebook. Yeah, she's been trained, Hannah's been trained to help out with that, okay? That's why I hide mine every time they come over. But see, just to show the image of Judas that we have of him selling Christ for 30 pieces of silver, how many kids in your lifetime have you heard named Judas? None. None. Just because of what he did to Christ, delivering him up, selling him, so that he could be caught. Judas felt so bad for selling Christ, he tried to give back the money. The chief priests would not accept it. It had already been done. You've already kissed Jesus. We don't want the money back. It's yours. We find out later that Judas hung himself. Some say on purpose, others say on accident. But Scripture tells us he was hung. Money, fame, job, family, and friends. What do you put above Christ in your life? I'm glad to see everybody that's here this morning. Some are going to ask me, where is everyone? Because I think I heard William when he came in. Wow, ain't nobody here. Well, I don't have an answer. I know some are on vacation. Some are being lazy, if we were to tell the truth, I'm sure. Others are not feeling well. Okay? But I'm glad to see you all here this morning. So as we look at our invitation today, what are you putting above Christ in your life? Are you guilty of doing that? This morning, Gloria is going to come and sing a song of invitation. If you need to come up and pray, I encourage that. I'll be down here. But just allow the Lord to work in your life. And to have priority. So we do not and are not guilty of selling Christ in our lives. Lord, you would be there. Let's pray. Father,